Yeah, setting the stage, so to say, for our next panel. This is the sustainability panel. And amidst growing concerns about space debris and also sustainable orbit management, like we just heard, the EU lacks a clear framework for responsible space management. And the Commission is actively driving initiatives to strengthen the EU industry, establish fair rules, and promote common initiatives for the long-term preservation of space, and with that also our planet. Space operators, manufacturers, surveillance actors, and debris experts are invited to share their insights on achieving fair, safe, and sustainable access to space, fostering a collaborative dialogue for future generations. And that's exactly what we're going to talk about now with our panelists, whom I'd like to introduce as we did in the last. So let's start it off with the moderator for this panel. Please welcome on stage Rainer Hahn. Rainer. He is the founder and managing partner of SpaceTec Partners, backed with 25 years of consulting experience in the space sector. Specializing in new space, space applications, and geospatial industry, he has shaped space innovation ecosystems, finance programs, accelerators, and incubators. And SpaceTec Partners serves space companies, institutions, venture capital, and private equity investors. This gentleman holds a double degree from the European School of Business and an MBA from INSEAD. Welcome, Rainer. Great to have you with us.
Thank you. Nice meeting you.
Also joining us, please welcome RODOLPHE MUNOZ. He is a lawyer from the College of Europe, brings extensive experience from international organizations like the WHO and EFTA, Surveillance Authority, and in his 6 years at the European Commission and 7 years in Unit DG DAFISB1, I hope I had that all correctly here, he has focused on legal issues related to WTO, information society law, and the implementation of space situational awareness in space regulation. He also played a crucial role in drafting the STM communication and now oversees its implementation, including aspects related to the SST partnership, space law, and standardization policy. Rodolfo, great to have you with us.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us.
It's a bit hidden.
Please give it up loud for Mr. Stewart BAIN. A true aerospace industry veteran since 1989 who excels in creating, developing, and commercializing cutting-edge aerospace technologies. And with a background in aerospace engineering, he specializes in advanced composite materials and optical systems for satellites. Now, Stewart's expertise spans international aerospace missions, where he's contributed as a lead engineer, project manager, and business development executive. Additionally, he serves as a board member for private industry and associations globally. Stewart, great to see you again. Welcome.
Thank you.
2 more to go. Hello and welcome, Juan Carlos Dolado PEREZ. Our 4th panelist is former head of the Space Situational Awareness Office at the French Space Agency and a globally recognized expert in space surveillance. And as an international academic of astronautics and member of both the IAA Space Debris Committee and the International Astronautical Federation Space Traffic Management Committee, he brings extensive expertise. He has also served as the chair of the modeling work group at the Interagency Space Debris Coordination Committee and has authored over 50 scientific articles in the field of space debris surveillance and tracking. Welcome to the panel. Great to have you. Keep that energy going and flowing for our last panelist here, Thomas EGGENWEILER. Welcome, Thomas. He is a true space enthusiast. He serves as the commercial director at Neuraspace, a company focused on enhancing the safety and sustainability of space operations. And before Neuraspace, he held key roles in business strategy, sales, and engineering at major players in satellite communication, including ST Engineering, iDirect, NewTek, and SES. And he holds an engineering degree in software engineering from the University of Applied Sciences in Darmstadt and earned an MBA from the University of St. Gallen in Switzerland. Thomas, please join the other gentleman. And once again, save your questions for the end. This also applies to our remote audience. Rainer, it's all in your hands.
Yes. Hello, everybody. Thank you, LSA. Thank you, Juliette, for inviting me back to this prestigious event that gets quite some acclaim here all over Europe and beyond. Welcome also to the audience that is following us on the stream. Now, before we go into this, we will have first a keynote from our representative from the European Commission, from RODOLPHE MUNOZ. We will then later go into a panel discussion with these esteemed startup representatives from the STM, SSA, SST community, and then we'll have some Q&A. So if you have any questions to Rodolphe or anyone else on the panel, keep them for the last 10 minutes of the panel. So without further ado, Rodolphe, maybe you want to get started.
Thank you very much. So first, good morning, everybody. Thank you very much to Luxembourg for the organization of this event. I will rely on paper more than on technology, so I should be OK. What I would like to tell you is, in 10 minutes, even less, few ideas of what we are doing at the Commission level. OK? So first, what are the links between mountain glacier melting with the unbearable heat, the groundwater depletion, the house pricing, and space debris? You could think, well, no link. Yes, there is a link. This has been demonstrated in the UN report of October 2023, where they are considered as major issue for the future. So when you look to the list, you have the usual suspects, which are very important, of course, and you have a new one, space debris. Why? Because indeed, like it has been demonstrated, satellites are used today more and more, and will be even more later. So it means that today, if we had to stop to rely on technology coming from space, it will be disastrous. But in 10 years, it will be a catastrophe. So indeed, if we cannot anymore monitor the planet, if we cannot anymore use for planes, for maritime, for our Galileo satellites or Copernicus satellites are very important for, indeed, the day-to-day life and all the work that you are doing as well. So here, what are we facing? You have seen these pictures. They speak better than anything. The figures, OK? The pictures that you have seen is 128 million debris, smaller up to 1 millimeter. OK? You could say, OK, but we know that, so now we will stop. We know that we have to take care of this LEO, MEO, and GEO. Well, when you look to the figures in ITU, you have up to 2030, because there is a limit when you put your ITU registration, you have more than 1.7 million slots for new satellites which have been reserved. Of course, not all of them will be coming to life. We all know that. But even if you have 5–10%, it's huge, up to 2030. So here, the idea is today is not a matter anymore of maybe something will happen. Today, the matter is when it will happen. We all know that if nothing is done, something will happen. A major catastrophe, and then the famous Kessler effect, which was, think at a time where it was just an academic, with brackets, and with all my respect for the academic, I used to work in the academia, for the academics, but now it's a reality. If you have 2–3 more major catastrophe in LEO, then no more access to LEO. Then no more access to LEO, no more access to MEO. No more access to GEO, no more access to the moon, to Mars, etc., etc. And today, the technology to remove debris does not exist. You have a lot of very good companies working on it, doing very good work, but on-the-shelf technology, no, it does not exist. So what to do? Well, what can be done is to regulate. And I'm here in the name of the regulator. But when people hear about regulator, they have a sort of, oh my God, it's going to cost money. Yes, maybe. Maybe some elements might cost money, definitely. But let's be honest. On one side, you have an increase of the price to a certain level, which is bearable. And on the other side, you have no more access to space. So choose. I mean, we will not have this event in case it happens, because we will not have any more satellites producing data. So what we can do, and what we try at least to do, and I'm very modest at commission level in DG is we are trying to regulate in a smart way, meaning what? I'm going to give you a few examples of what we are doing and what we are trying to do in order to regulate in this smart way. The first one is, when we regulate, we try to involve industry. The latest example with a draft space law that the EU is preparing today, which will tackle safety, sustainability, and security, we have launched many consultations. We received more than 300 replies, which is huge compared to the community, knowing that the questions were 26 questions per formula. So we try to involve you. We met a lot of the industry. We try to learn. Because we learn every day, to make sure that what we are planning will work first. Then, as well, what we try to do is to do it in a proportionate way. Why? Because why we want to regulate? In order to keep access to space. If we regulate in a way that what we impose is impossible to achieve, nobody will go to space anymore anyway. So it will be a failure. So we need to do it in a proportionate way, meaning that the obligations that we would like to develop will be limited, but enough to stop what is coming. And we will have as well incentives to go further for the industry or for the satellite operators who would like to go with labels, for example. What we try to do as well is to treat with this proportionate approach differently big companies and universities, for example. However, it doesn't mean that universities should have a white card, because a university satellite without any propulsion, which is launched in 1,000 kilometers, will take 100 years to come back. And with no propulsion, it means how will you handle collision avoidance? It's difficult. So indeed, not the same rules, proportionate, because we want to go on with research. I mean, a lot of work is done at the research level, at the university level, and of course we want to keep that, because this is the future of space. Then, what we would like to do as well is to foster the ecosystem at the EU level. We have created a specific forum for the industry and the startup, where we bring this ecosystem, which is a small one. We are really the small brother of the space regulation, of course, compared to Galileo, Copernicus, or IRIS². We have SSA, and there we have created this forum. And in case you are not aware, go on the website of DG and have a look to this forum. You are more than welcome. And why this forum is important? Because it gives you predictability, which is very important, to know exactly what we are planning. And therefore, you can as well plan your business plan according to it. And how we are spending as well the budget that we have in order to develop this. What we can do as well is incentives. We are trying to develop adaptation measures, foster research with Horizon Europe, but as well financing with EOD IOV program, Cassini. So there we are trying as well to foster this. And what we do, we as well provide to satellite operator public services through collision avoidance services through EU SST partnership, which is a group of 15 member states providing collision avoidance for free of charge, to today 419 satellites in LEO, MEO, GEO. And this is done for free in order, why? In order to make sure that everybody has a quality service regarding collision avoidance. What we are doing as well is standardization. We try to develop standardization. We have launched recently a call on the rules of the roads. Indeed, when with the picture that you have seen, which satellite should go up, down, well, there is no rule today. It's like in the old days when in the roads you had no rules of the roads. It's the same up there. So we are trying to develop standards in order to make it happen. Finally, regulating is important. Why? Because, of course, it will add some burdens, but as well, it will create new markets. Because if you impose some obligations, definitely you will have development of need for more data, more software, more hardware. Therefore, I hope that we will succeed, and I hope that we will not be too harsh with you, definitely. Thank you very much.
So, thank you, Rodolphe, for this heads up. And I think after the extensive problem statement by Moriba Jah, and now with the approach from the European Union, I think we have some basis for discussion. In this panel, we want to cover 3 topics. We want to discuss these policy instruments and other instruments a bit more. We want to introduce the capabilities of these startups and technologies for STM, and also what's the path towards commercialization? What elements can be done from the private sector? How do they play in with the institutional players? Maybe as a first question to the startup representatives, and please chime in as you like. What is the startup perspective on the policy instruments that were just introduced and talked about, because they're still fresh in our mind? We heard about incentives, about labels, rules, standards, EU law, etc. Anyone want to go first?
The startup's perspective is Friday's payday.
Okay.
And you have a small number of employees that need to get paid every month. The speed of government and the speed of policy doesn't always understand the concept of Friday's payday. That's not the government's problem. That's an entrepreneur's challenge. So an entrepreneur looks for funding, either through venture capital or through private equity, which puts pressure on the entity. The ultimate goal of the entity is to create value for its shareholder. The best way to create value for your shareholder is to demonstrate that you can monetize your product. Therein comes the need for a client. Governments are excellent clients as early adopters, and I applaud the efforts that go on here in Europe, particularly through a few speeches that I've seen by Joseph Aschbacher on behalf of the European Space Agency to say that their #1 goal here in Europe is to be the first adopter of startup technology. I cannot say that that's exactly the same thing all over the world, particularly in Canada and in North America. So I applaud the forward-looking statements like that. So from a startup perspective, or from an early stage company's perspective, we're always looking for, within the need to create fair quality services for everyone else, how do we monetize the services of the innovation that we are creating? It's not a one-line answer. It's a collaborative effort. And so we each play a different role in that cycle.
Any other views from the other 2 colleagues?
In complement to that, is this complementarity, this, if we can call it partnership between private and public, is fundamental, as has been said by Stewart. We are trying to solve a key problem, a fundamental problem. The trillion-dollar economy will not exist if we are not able to solve this problem, and this impacts both public, private, and all everyday lives. So partnering in order to go faster, to monetize faster, to show that we are able to innovate faster, is with the help of public actors is fundamental, is vital.
Let me maybe, based on Rudolph's presentation, let me maybe make a bit of a provocative statement, but I need to be careful because there are some government representatives in the room. So in my point of view, I don't know how you see it in the audience, but governments usually don't make good service providers. Governments are there to build roads, to build infrastructure, to provide also space situational awareness data, but then it should be up to industry to take that data and turn it into an innovative and viable service that is also commercial viable and adds value to the market. So that's my point on that.
So how do you see with your solutions, if you, a little bit of space for an advertising block here, but how does it fit for you, for your company specifically, and the technologies that you are bringing to the road? How do these things help you, stop you, make your life more complicated, or how can you use these rules that are being conceptualized for your work?
I've always taken the approach that technology is an axe in the hands of a mass murderer. That was a quote from Albert Einstein. Technology is not something we want to get married to. We want to use technology to answer questions. So for me, it's a philosophical approach. What is the question or the challenge that you are trying to solve? And I think the European Union is traditionally very philosophical in its approach because it's based on collaboration. So number one, you don't do it alone. So you go in with the perspective that there needs to be a balance, and if you look at Foreign Affairs' recent publication, this 2-month period, Jake Sullivan from the United States talks about how the United States has made classic errors geopolitically in trying to go it alone. You must go with your partners. True alliances and true collaborations and true allies are not just defined in a military sense, they're defined in a commercial sense. And so commercially, the way I see this is philosophically, what is Northstar trying to do? We started with the question, what is the best way to monitor activity in space so that we can provide good navigation tools so that while we are trying to clean up the congestion, people will not be running into each other and know how to avoid that. And then we came up with the answer. The best way to do it is to monitor space from space using a constellation of satellites that are properly navigated, but are giving eyes to the navigators, to the people that are out there. As Mariba pointed out, the only way, I would brag, that you can monitor a highly elliptical spent rocket that is traveling in an orbit all the way up to geostationary, down to low Earth orbit, which is moving at about 16 kilometers a second, is by using a system that is based in space. Because ground-based sensors don't have enough coverage, don't get enough revisit time, and don't provide you with the precision. We come into a debate that is a healthy one as to whether that service should be provided to everyone for free or whether that service is something that people should pay for. I subscribe to the pay for because, as I said earlier, payday is Friday. And if you're going to get innovation coming out of small to medium-sized enterprises, we need to strike that balance. I don't think anything that Rodolfo said is against that point. I think what he is saying is these are the approaches we are taking. Policy, like a family, is something that you have to cultivate. And we have to work on these things together. So I think that's the approach that we take as we go into this.
Yeah. So Rodolphe, you're welcome to chime in anytime, yeah? Whilst we're quizzing the startups on their approach, yeah?
I just would like to say that first, if we regulate, is for you. I mean, we don't regulate for the sake of spending nights working just for the pleasure of that. I mean, so indeed, and it's why we try to involve industry in order to make sure that we don't make mistakes, because everybody is making mistakes. Regarding service provider, there indeed the EU SST partnership is providing a service which is for collision avoidance mainly, but as well re-entry and fragmentation. And we consider it as a public service first. We were a bit the first one to push for that, let's put it that way. But okay, after a certain period of time as well, now the US is going in the same direction for their own reasons, of course. It's very important. They nothing to do with us. And basically there, it means that today you need to have a centralized system to check that. It will be like if you take the plane and you have the air traffic which is done by competing companies. Will you take the plane tomorrow? Well, it will require at least some analysis from you, because if you don't know how, what, is it coordinated? So indeed, this is this need of coordination that we need to have, and this is what we are reflecting on. And indeed, we need to make sure that we don't go too far in order to leave the possibility for companies to step in, and this is very important. And the second point is not doing alone, definitely. First, when I talk about the European Union, we are doing that with the member states, of course. It's very important. We have a lot of discussions. It's a lot of competence of the member state as well, so first element. Second element, we are exchanging a lot with our colleagues from the US. working a lot with our colleagues from the US, and we have space dialogue with a lot of other countries in order to exchange on that topic.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Yeah. So if I can add, partnering. So we have this discussion at European level at the forums, and this is really important to have this open discussion. Partnering at the good level is fundamental if we want to develop an innovative ecosystem that is not only doing software, but where you really are creating industrial actors. Industrial private actors that are ready to invest a lot of money. This is what we are doing at Lookup Space. So we are investing in a full global network of radars that cost money. And to justify that from a company point of view, to justify that to our investors, we need to have the good level of partnership. If not, if we are going toward a full free service, the consequence is that that industrial actors that will bring innovation, will bring data, will bring the capability to persistently observe anything what is up there, will not exist. So this equilibrium, which is delicate to fix, is fundamental if we want to have this cohabitation between public and innovative industrial actors.
Yeah. So, I mean, we know that all the startups that we have here on the stage have a very different approach to solving the problem. You want to solve it from space. You are building the biggest network in the world for ground antennas to address the problem with and bundling some of the best capabilities that France has to offer and also internationally. And you raised just a significant amount of money to do that, yeah? How did you actually convince your investors that you should get 20 million euro, probably the second biggest space tech round in Europe recently? What is the magic sauce that you're not solving it from space, that the problem can be solved from the ground?
The magic sauce is quite simple. Investors will invest in you if you show at least 3 elements. First, a problem. It's not a nice-to-have problem. It's a real problem that you need to solve. Trillion-dollar economy will not exist without the capability we are developing. Second, a technology. Technology that solves the problem in a new way, change the paradigm. It's not just an innovation slightly similar to other things that somebody else can do. It's a real new technology that allows to change the paradigm. It's what we are doing at Lookup from hardware and software point of view. And at the end, a team, fundamental. A team that is able to develop, execute, operate, and commercialize, fundamental, the solution. Is what we are doing. Besides my expertise and the one of my co-founders, the former French space commander, we have an incredible team coming from the European industry. Once you have these 3 simple elements, you are not only able to find investors to put money on you, but to find investors that will put money on you and will help you to develop the solution.
Okay.
So that's the simple recipe, which each element is not that simple to have.
So the third representative here on stage is somewhere in between, a bit of ground intelligence and space activities. Maybe you quickly introduce it, and after that I will open up the floor to the audience. If you have any questions, get ready for it. Otherwise, I'm not running out of questions here on stage.
Yeah, I mean, what we do differently at Neuraspace, we are basically data agnostic. So any type of space situational awareness data that we can feed into our machine learning model, the better it is, the better the outcome is. So we rely on our own optical telescopes, but recently we also announced a partnership with ArcSec. They're building star trackers. So for those of you in the audience who don't know what a star tracker is, it is a device on a satellite that tracks stars, that helps the satellite to find its way where it's oriented. But the star tracker sees much more than actually the stars itself. It can also detect certain types of debris, certain size of debris. It would not compete with STEWART's satellites, which are made for that purpose. But the more star trackers you can put into a network and the more data you can pull down from the satellite, the better your visibility on space and the space debris situation is.
So we will have service providers, you will have an element of service provision, and you will bring that. And you all hope that the European institutions and other players are all buying these services in addition to the private sector. So where's the commercialization element from your end, Rodolphe? How do you bring all these people together?
Well, it's difficult, let's put it that way, because you will have as well between different companies fights, because some of them would like to have as much data as possible for free in order to develop some systems. Others, they would like to have the data pay a high price because they develop very costly sensors. So indeed, it's time to time difficult to put them together, but what is important is, when I was talking about the EU SST partnership and this collision avoidance service that we develop, we give money to these 15 member states, but 90% of the money is going back to the industry, meaning it's not the member state in their garage, backyard, who built some technology. No, the technology is given back through for tenders to the industry. And just to come back on what you said about the timing, indeed, I know, I know it's difficult, but it's as well, in order to avoid mistakes, we need to have this timing at the legislative level, because we need to exchange with you, we need to exchange with the member state, with our partners, with all the different industry, in order to make sure that indeed what we are doing is not impeding on the future work of somebody. But I fully understand your point, definitely.
So are there any questions from the audience? We have here 2 mics. A lady in green was first, and then a second voice in the second row.
Hi, is it working? Hi, I'm Sabrina. I'm from a company startup called ClearSpace, so it speaks for its name. I just want to ask a question, because it's true, we've been talking a lot about, I would say, passive way now, regulating SSTM and all these kind of things. Question is, we also need to, I believe, act in space now to remove the debris and maybe act on the satellites themselves. And when is that planned? Is it part of the plan as well? I think we should also do that. Thank you.
Yes, that question is to you.
It is part of the plan. It is part of the plan, like it is part of the plan now.
Okay.
And we had a second speaker there asking a question. Christine?
Yes, good morning. My name is Christine Larquin, and I will ask you a question, Mr. MUNOZ. And thank you very much for your openness and transparency on the regulations which is being put forward, which is a good start. I was just thinking that as we talk about satellite and satellite constellations, we're talking about global issues. We're not just talking about Europe, of course. The objects of Europe needs to be protected. You said it, Galileo, Copernicus, and others. But in fact, it's a global issue. And to solve a global issue, we need global partners. And I just had a first question on this. How do you envisage to have those global partners in a Europe which wants to become sovereign on every topic? And this is a topic which I think is also of interest to Europe, to have this global reach. That's the first question. The second question is about the next MFF. Okay, we are at mid-term MFF, multi-annual financial framework, for those ones who don't know about what I'm speaking about. And we know that currently SSA has 200 million, right? This is the plan. What is the plan for the next one? Because this is a big issue. I know, I can give you a figure if you want. We need at least 2 billion, but okay, that's a first figure like this. But honestly, if we really want to tackle this issue seriously, and I think that we heard that it becomes very serious, right? That there are more and more satellites, more and more collisions. We cannot afford continuing operating space like we do without taking into consideration this issue. So is there something that we, industry, can do to support you into that battle of having more means at the level of the member state and the Commission to actually tackle that issue for the next MFF? Thank you, Mr. MUNOZ.
Okay, I just would like to come back to your question before, as well, to say that we have colleagues as well working specifically on that topic. So we are doing a lot of things, but as well, other things are coming. So here, on what you said, definitely, this is a global issue. If you look to the STM communication, it has two titles. The STM communication is a Space Traffic Management Communication, which is a joint communication with the Commission and the EAS, and is developing an EU approach. So first, we need to, at the EU level, discuss and to make sure that we understand each other, what it means, what we can do, what we cannot do, because of the competence issue as well, which are very important within the EU. And to give you an idea, only to give the definition of STM is a nightmare. So we try with this communication to give one, a working one at least. But then the second title is to tackle a global issue. So indeed, it's a global issue, and this global issue, we are, first, the work which is done at the UN is excellent. We are participating with that in the EU, at the EU level. Our member states as well are doing their job there. But we consider that today, to push for an action to regulate at the global level is going to be difficult. Therefore, we consider that we could start at the regional level, and if you look to the STM communication, you see that you have several actions, which are the last actions. There are 10 actions, and the last actions are how to act at the global level. Because indeed, whatever we do at the EU level will not be enough. And as I said, we are cooperating a lot with our US colleague, but as well with other states through our dialogue with all the other states. We have space dialogue with other states.
Okay, thank you. Is there any more question? One question here?
Oh, yeah.
Sorry. I think this is the last one, then we have to wrap up afterwards.
Hi, my name is Robert from company IC. So we are also in the SSC service field. My main question is, as we're now seeing this ecosystem of the one side in Europe, the EU SST, on the other side, many more startups or commercial industries came up doing or providing at least, or wants to provide these SSA services. So how this will look in the near, mid and long-term future? Because on the one side, all the startups want to provide their service, and for sure, they want to get their customers paid for it. On the other side, we have EU SST who provides a service for free.
So, here, first, I did not answer to your question on the MFF. So it's not that I don't want. I have no clue about the figures, so I cannot say. Even if I had, I will tell you I cannot, but I don't have. So it's very good. I mean, it's very important to understand that we make a proposal, and of course, and it's normal, and it's of course how it has to be. This is afterwards in the hand of the European Parliament and the member states. How you can help us to, well, explaining to the member states the importance of indeed STM, SST, SSA. But I think that in the last MFF, perhaps member states, they were more interested and they were not perhaps so aware of this issue. I think now all member states, they know about it, but indeed, try to talk to your member state to explain that this is very important. Now, on what you said, this is what we try to do. We have even in this forum a specific working group where we talk about the services in order to see where we stop and where pure commercial services start. Why I call pure commercial? Because as I said, 90% of the money given to EU SST is given back to the industry through call for tenders, for software, for data, for new assets. We are planning to have grants to build new assets. We are just finished the launch for a data call of nearly 30 million euro, which is, regarding our budget, quite good. And it's very important to understand that the 200 million that we have, that have been mentioned, I mean, member states put 10 times more on from their pocket. So this is really another system compared to Copernicus, Galileo, IRIS², where you have EU assets paid by the member states through the budget. But here we are using some money, but most of the assets, most of the money are coming from the member state. This is a model today. Now we need to find exactly this limit, and once we fix this limit, we need to be as transparent as possible in order for you to know where you can go and where you cannot go. At least you will not invest for nothing, and you will not end up after 1, 2, 3 years with no client. But indeed, this is, as I said, such an important issue that we have only 3 working groups in this forum, and one of them is dedicated only on that. And the working groups are co-chaired by the industry to show the transparency. Sorry.
We're starting to run out of time, but I'd like to just, maybe you can make it part of your closing statement. We're almost at Christmas. Like, we can start raising our wishes. The MFF will be in full swing in 5 years from now. What would have to happen in the next 5 years from your perspective? What's the most elementary thing, if you can express a wish from the startup side? And then we'll have Rudolph, do you give me some closing words? Yeah?
My name's Stewart. I'm a steward since I was born. Protector of the house, keeper of the house. It puzzled me when I was young. And as Mark Twain said, there's only 2 important days in your life: the day you're born and the day you understand why. My role at Northstar was to provide a service from an engineer's perspective that would give my children, AKA next generation, hope. Technology is not the answer. Technology is the tool. Community and working together, and in response to your question, one word: consolidation. Economic consolidation. All the companies, the hundreds of companies that are out there clamoring for a spot, there will be consolidation. The winners will rise to the top, and there will be acquisition. On the question of what are we doing about removing space debris, wait for that. But in the meantime, navigate and have good policy for people not to be able to throw things up into space. And my wish is that investors would be a lot more intelligent about where they put their money, because it's not about just launching anything into space just so you can say you did. So think before you launch, and investors, be prudent about what you're launching into space. If it doesn't have a good ROI, it doesn't deserve an investment, and it doesn't deserve making a mess of space. So my wish is that everyone behaves as a community, together, collaboratively, because as Mariba said, my good friend, we are interdependent. We rely on each other globally.
Okay. Quick closing.
Yeah, in addition to that, my wish is not for the companies, for the ecosystem and for all the services that we take advantage from space, is that we continue to structure, to progress, to have the support from public actors, from investors to solve this fundamental problem. So this problem has been, I made numbers yesterday evening. Between 2016 and today, in 7 years, the number of operational satellites, only operational, has been multiplied by 9. More than 100% increase by year. The breeze, I don't even talk about. So it's normal that it takes a little bit of time to pass from 200 million to 2 billion, hopefully. It takes a little bit of time to structure everything, but my wish is that we progress, we give the importance this problem has, and we put our technologies, all the innovation and all the efforts we are putting on the commercial side to solve this wicked problem.
Okay.
Yeah, my final wish, I mean, it's coming to the holiday season apparently. My final wish is that we start as a community to reward responsible behavior in space and to punish reckless behavior in space. Because then you're going to have a cost associated to whatever you do in space, and that answers your question what a startup can do towards EU SST. Because whatever you do in space is going to become costly, so you're willing to pay for the services that the 3 of us provide. So that cannot be covered by EU SST, so you need to be smart on what you provide, and as a startup, you can always be fast and smart, which is something that government entities not always can do.
Well, thank you for those contributions. Now, Rudolph, you wanted to have some closing remarks on what we've learned from this discussion.
Okay, so I'm the last person standing between you and the lunch, so I start with 1 minute, no more. I just would like to say that what we need to do is we need to find solutions, technological solutions, for debris, for removal debris, to avoid more debris, to have space traffic management, to have rules of the roads. And these solutions, where they will come from? From you. So you are the one who will produce these solutions. So definitely we need you in order to develop these technological solutions. And we are here, and we will indeed try to help you. And basically, the sky is the limit. You can develop new technology, and we need to act before the sky becomes the limit if we have the Kessler effect. Thank you.
Okay. So thank you, everybody. Thank you to the panel. So maybe give us and the colleagues for some round of applause. Thomas, Juan Carlos, Stewart, Rodolphe.
All right.
There we go.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. I'm actually the last one standing in between you and lunch, so I'd like to invite everybody now to lunch. Look, that was all I had to do now. But I'd like to remind you to be back here at 1:45 sharp, all right, for our next session on finance, all right? 1:45, enjoy your lunch, and don't forget to check out the networking function on your app. All right, and now, bon appetit.